Welcome, everyone. I'm really glad you're here because this is the most important talk you're going to be in the entire day. It has nothing to do with me. Why anybody would walk by the brain, I don't know. Because it starts and it ends with the greatest miracle ever designed in the history of the universe. And that's what we're going to talk about. Okay? So I'm Paul Nussbaum. I'm a Pittsburgher. I do talks all across the world about this. The really cool thing about my work is I get to be in front of a lot of brains, not in a clinical sense. So I'm in schools and libraries. I work with a lot of businesses trying to build brain health cultures. And the way that you have to do that, and the way you can do that, is first you have to make sure that everybody understands what sits between your ears. This might be, for a lot of you, the first time you ever really sat and thought about the human brain. Okay? When I talk to you today, I don't want you to think about it in terms of an academic, clinical kind of talk. We're really going to be focused in on you. All right? So I'm going to get you to turn your energy inward, think about yourself, think about behavior. Believe it or not, you'll laugh. Some of you might cry. Your brain gives you the capacity to do all those things. We're the one animal on the planet, through thinking, can make ourselves really happy and really miserable. We're the only animal on the planet that can do that. Okay? Some people shaking their heads yes when I said miserable. All right? That's interesting. So this is who I am. This is how you can get a hold of me. I have Twitter, Facebook, email, websites, phone calls, scream out the window, okay, whatever you want to do. And as I said, I'm a Pittsburgher, so it's always nice to be able to talk to my friends and families in my hometown. We just opened up a center, a brain health center in Wexford. And you'll get from me a very holistic approach. You know, I'm a 51-year-old brain you're looking at. About 15 years ago, I made a big pivot from the academic ivory tower where I was trained, some of the best training in the world, to talk about what I'm going to talk to you about today. I get published now, not in peer-reviewed journals, but in Reader's Digest, Better Homes and Garden, on and on and on, okay? So I'm going to speak to you probably beneath your educational level, so forgive me, but there's so many people out there that need this message. It's not getting to them from the academic ivory towers. Because the animals like me that work in academic ivory towers, you know who we talk to? The other animals in the academic ivory towers. Okay? So my mother, who's 90, not going to get that information. So hopefully that gives you a context of where I'm coming from today. You're more than welcome to come tour the Brain Health Center. Rita Singer right here, put your hand up, Rita, is our registered dietitian there. She's really an expert in foods for the brain. Kim is my wife sitting right here. She leads our Brain Health Studio. In the Brain Health Studio, we do some interesting things like meditation and yoga, which are better than Xanax and Ativan. Okay? Tonight I lead a meditation course, 7 o'clock. I'm not sure we have space for everybody, but you're all welcome. Okay? And so we're really focusing in on those kinds of things from a holistic perspective to balance your brain. Get your brain in balance. When you do that, the miracle emerges. But we Americans in particular are really good at screwing up that a bit. We're really the experts in terms of creating stress. And that's a bad thing for the brain. Okay? Welcome. See that? You got to sit up front now. Right? All right, you're all right. Not away. These are some of the services we provide at the Brain Health Center. Some room up front, ladies, if you want to come on up. All right, they're calling. So I still see a lot of the different neurological, neuropsychiatric issues, but I'm approaching it from a different perspective. I also see CEOs. We see professional athletes there. I've gotten involved in now we're one of the sites nationally that sees the retired NFL players. We're going through the litigation process with head injury. But I'm also really interested in a kid who maybe is getting a B and not an A. Why is that? How about a CEO that's having now relationship issues because he or she is not in balance? Okay? How about an athlete who doesn't make a field goal from 26 yards out? Sound familiar? And he's a good field goal kicker. Why does that happen? It's all between the ears. Okay? So you have an ability to be as great as you want to be, but you have to work at it. Okay? And that's what we do at our center. We have a little slogan, yoga with your brain in mind. Hopefully all of you do yoga. We have wonderful yoga instructors. We do hot yoga, regular yoga, yoga nidra, yoga for folks who have chronic pain, so it has to be a bit more specialized. So feel free to come join us and come take a look. Now, here we go. And by the way, if you need to stand up, that's fine. It turns out, as I talk to the students across the United States of America, and they like what I say right now, you have no learning cells in your buttocks. Where's my student from Waynesburg? Write that down. You have no learning cells in your buttocks, okay? See if I don't get invited back next year. So what that means is we shouldn't be sitting down. If it really is about the brain, because 15 years ago I wrote a thing called the schools. I come from Pine Richland. The schools are really brain health centers. What's happening when a kid walks into the school? Is the toe being massaged? No. So they better understand what it means to get the brain in a position so that it can learn. So if we're going to learn Shakespeare, that's fine, but let's do it while we're dancing. You shouldn't have chairs in classrooms. You should have treadmills, stationary bikes. It's just the way the brain works, okay? I'm in front of school boards trying to convince them not to remove physical education. You see how far apart we are in terms of trying to make a culture shift. So this is who I am. I'm the brain health lifestyle guy, okay? You can pretty much Google and you're going to see me in a lot of big companies you know about. My stamp is out there, good, bad, or neutral, I don't know, but this is what I believe in. I'm very passionate about it. These are things Grandma taught you. You know, it turns out that mental stimulation is pretty important for the brain. It turns out spirituality is very important for the brain. Nutrition, as Rita could tell you, is very important for the brain. So is socialization. Don't isolate. It's a weird thing when I say that to 12-year-olds. Don't isolate. They're looking at me like, but if they get the message early, they won't do it when they're 83. And if you isolate when you're 83, now Alzheimer's disease risk goes through the roof. Okay? Which one did I miss there? Physical activity. We got to be moving. I don't know if you paid attention, but one of the biggest concerns now is sedentary behavior. It is now on the same plane as smoking. There was a thing that just hit the net the other day with a study, okay? So at companies, are we sitting too much? And the answer tends to be yes in the United States of America. So what do you think? Do you think the brain can be shaped for health? What do you think? Well, it'd be like Ferris Bueller, right? Anyone? Anyone? Yes. So you think yes. You'd be surprised the number of people that I get on panels with the know-it-alls and they say no, absolutely not. You remember Spock? When Kim and I had, I always say when I had the babies, when Kim had our 3 boys, we had to read a book by Spock, right? Star Trek, right? Spock. He told us that your kid's going to develop, you know, critical period of brain development. Y'all remember that? When was the critical period of brain development? 0 to 2 or 5, absolutely, right? At age 6, it's all downhill. Well, we actually are not as stupid as sometimes we pretend to be. So understand that the critical period of brain development is called life. And understand that your brain does not care how old you are. Chronological age is all made up. We wrap a lot of psychological stupidity around chronological age. Lordy, Lordy, I'm 40. At 50, somebody puts a balloon on your thing and AARP gives you an invitation. At 65, you get policies. Literally, policies are made based on the age cutoff of 65. And I'm here today to tell you, I don't care what side of that political aisle you're on, your political hero does not know why we use 65, which is a frightening statement. Okay? So what I want you to understand is the fact, which is that chronological age is all made up. Hallmark knows this. Okay? They make millions of dollars off it. Your brain just wants to be stimulated, okay, at all ages. So absolutely it can be shaped for health. It can be shaped for disease, and it can be shaped for violence. But today we're talking about health, okay? Please understand that. There was an artist in one of my talks down in Sarasota who drew this. This will make sense to you in a little bit. He gave me permission to use it. But he's literally was sitting out there like you guys, and he was drawing this as I was talking. Okay, it's pretty interesting. What do you see here? Anyone? Anyone? The brain. Everybody says brain. That's fine. That's correct. You can write down. Dr. Nussbaum said I'm normal. Statistically, you're normal. I've talked to 80,000 Americans. That's what everybody says. Brain. Good. Here's the problem. What we have to do in our very short period of time here is change behavior. Hardest thing in the world to do. If you're a mother, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a coach, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a spouse, you probably know what I'm talking about, okay? Or a teacher, you know what I'm talking about. There's 2 ways, in my opinion, you can increase compliance with changing behavior. Number 1, you better explain to people why you want them to change. My field doesn't do a very good job of that. We'll tell you what to do. We don't spend the time telling you why. Number two, it better be personal. And if it ain't personal, you're not budging. Human behavior 101. Long before I got my nose in a textbook, I watch you humans. I watched you today. I'm obsessive compulsive with watching Homo sapiens. We're a fascinating animal. You never have to go to the zoo again, okay? Just go to the Ross Park Mall and sit there, okay? It's an unbelievable thing, okay? So, in thinking about, you're in front of your computer. You've all done this. And you're searching the web, right? What's the emotional experience? Anyone? What's the emotional experience? You're searching the web. What's the emotional experience? Taking forever. Probably not much, because it's the kind of thing where you can search the web, you're yelling at somebody, put the meatloaf in, did you clean up your room? And you're still searching the web. Not many robots can do that. Back up. Pretend we didn't just say that, okay? Rewind. You're sitting in front of the computer. Now you got your online banking statement. A little different experience? Chest coming out, right? Eyes are hypervigilant. You're screaming at somebody, where's check 340? Check 340. Right? Why is that different? Because it's personal. You will see change in behavior if something's personal. When I'm sitting in the classrooms out there, as I travel the country with schools, it always goes something like this. 85% of our student population are proficient in math. I'm thinking as a neuroscientist, 15% are not. Why are they not? Because the curriculum doesn't mean anything to them. See how you lose them? I got to get you to a personal level. So when you say brain, you're correct. But that's an academic thing. You're looking at you. From this day till your last, when you get asked that question, the correct response is me. What are you looking at? Me. The single greatest miracle ever designed in the history of this universe or any. There will never, ever be anything built, ever, that even comes close. And that's just based on what we think this can do today. And I'm here to tell you, looking right in the eyes, one confident thing I'll say to you today, we don't know what it can do. Anybody stands in front of you and says, we know what it can do, walk out of the room. That's not true. That's one of the things I get excited about. I'll speculate, which essentially means I'm now deviating from any sort of research that I can cite for you. Otherwise, everything I say today will be research-based. Right now, it's not. I think one day, as we develop, this system will be able to fix a lot of the maladies of the human body. Okay? I think one day, I actually had a patient get very, very angry with what I'm about to say to you right now. You'll be able to communicate with other humans without opening the mouth. He didn't, so he was angry at me. Okay? Think about what we're doing right now. I'm up here, my lips are flapping. You hear sound coming out. You're nodding at me. I presume you're kind of listening to me. It's sort of virtual, isn't it? It's kind of cool. But it's primitive. And the military knows about this. They have studies ongoing because it turns out to be advantageous if your kids are on the front line in danger not to make a lot of noise. So what I'm talking to you right now is not crazy talk, okay? It's just a matter of a civilization becoming more aware of the power of this. This is an electrical chemical source. That's what it is. Give you a quick example of what I call neuroenergies. I do a lot of work with the media, so you have to talk in sound bites. So neuroenergies means, for me, the ability for your system to affect what goes on outside of you and affect what goes on inside of you. You have that ability. Believe it or not, some people don't want to be in the room when you're there. Okay? Believe it or not, you don't want to be in the room when other people are there. Pay attention to Thanksgiving holiday coming up. Okay? Tell me if you don't experience some of that. All right? So I'm on a panel out in Tucson. I went to the University of Arizona, so it was kind of cool to get back there. It was filmed by C-SPAN 2. You can take a look at this. It was on the brain of all things. I'm sitting there. There's a guy right next to me by the name of Dr. Hamilton. I don't know Dr. Hamilton. He's the moderator. Turns out he's a neurosurgeon. That's pretty cool. Very nice, humble man. Sat next to me that day on the planet. Turns out he's the guy that Grey's Anatomy goes to for a lot of their shows. Okay? That's kind of cool. He writes a book called The Scalpel and the Soul. And in his book, he shares a number of different cases, and as a neurosurgeon, what happens to a lot of the patients that neurosurgeons work with. what happens? They die. So we don't talk enough about it, but a neurosurgeon develops a relationship. So there's a lot of psychology there. And so there's loss. And he talks about that experience. And he's got a problem that he's dealing with. He'll tell you this in terms of a belief of God versus science. He'll tell you that. That's what the book's about. So he shares a lot of these cases. Okay, one case is of a little boy. Little boy has a brain tumor. During the surgery, they find out the little boy's father dies. Can you imagine? During the surgery, news comes in, the boy's father died. Now, a little boy already going through a trauma of neurosurgery, right? You got it? So if you're Hamilton, what do you do? Do you tell him? So he talked to you about this. After the surgery, Hamilton walks in the room, see if the boy's recovering. Little boy's first thing out of his mouth to Hamilton is, "Where's my father?" Right? You have that experience? You just get a little chill? So he freezes and says, you know, "Johnny, why are you asking me that question?" He says, "Because I see him at the edge of my bed." All right. Second story, a bit more radical. 2 hours north of Tucson is Phoenix. There's a famous neurological institute. You can look it up. It's called Barrows Neurological. At the Barrows Neurological, there was a lady, roughly in her 40s. She's suffering what's called an aneurysm. That's a bubble on an artery. The bubble bursts, like a bubble on a bike. You have a hemorrhage. You don't want a hemorrhage. Okay? The neurosurgeon, preeminent at the time, wasn't Hamilton, says to her, "We can't operate on you because if we do, we're going to kill you. Can't get to it." So they do something really radical. They remove all the fluids from her body. Everything. For about 17 minutes, you can do that in the adult brain. Then you've got to get the fluids back in or it ain't going to matter anyway. There's seats up here, man, if you want to come up. No worry. Come on, join me. So you can imagine. If you're nurses in here, you can imagine the surgical suite. If you're doctors, you can imagine. Now, by the way, this was all audio taped, like we're being audio taped and videotaped. It was all audio taped and videotaped for historical purposes. So you can imagine. Machines coming in and out. Nurses carrying on their banter professionally with the surgeons. Things are really moving. Okay? One nurse starts to talk about how she was engaged. She was proposed to. And there was some laughter in the room. You ladies can imagine, because probably the guy didn't do it in such a cool way, so everybody's laughing, right? And she begins to talk about the details of her ring. Machines coming in and out. They close up. Surgeon has to go post-operatively operatively to see if the person is alive. Person's alive still today. And 2, is the brain doing what it's supposed to be doing? Brain's fine. Patient then looks at the neurosurgeon and says, "Thank you for the technique you used. And would you please tell the nurse, thank her for me for injecting a little humor during that intense time." And then she began to describe the details of the ring. At which point, when you're reading Hamilton's account, you can almost feel the neurosurgeon looking for a chair to sit down. Huh? And he says to her, "Can you tell me what machines came in the room in what order and where they were placed?" She said, "Yeah, the EKG machine that was measuring my heart came in first and it was placed over here, and the EEG machine that measures the brain came in second and it was placed over here." So, where does memory take place and visual perception and the appreciation of humor and wit when the brain's dead? We don't know that. It's a good question. But it appears, it's not the first time you've heard this, friends, that you remain connected spiritually from an energy source, however you want to describe it. It's hard to describe, after your body's gone. All right? I say that for 2 reasons. And I tell everybody who wants to listen across the world this story. 2 reasons. 1, respect what's between your ears. It's you. And 2, you look at me when I say this, it's okay. You with me? It's okay. Why do I want you to hear that? Because we're a nervous lot. We're an anxious animal. We worry about small things. And it hurts our health. And we lose sight of big things. And the only way you capture big things is to get in the moment. Remember that. Okay? This is your cortex. Everybody say cortex. Cortex. Word translates to mean the bark of the tree. Your eyes are looking to the left. Brain evolved from the back to the front. You see in the back, parietal lobe. If you're doing one of these numbers in the parking garage, your parietal lobe's having a problem, okay? Because it helps you get around in the world, all right? I don't have enough time, but I could tell you that if we would just have a video camera and watch humans doing that, you notice that you begin to talk to yourself when you do that? Third floor, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. I think I'm 3 green, 3 green, 3 green. I was next to an Astor minivan, Astor minivan. Where's the Astor minivan? Right? When you begin talking to yourself, you've gone to the other side of the brain to cope with the fact that this part of your brain's not getting it done. Okay? Spatial orientation. Einstein's brain was different in that part. Helps you with mathematics too. Okay? Temporal lobe, really important. Under each temple, helps you with auditory processing, what you're doing right now, oral processing, memory and new learning, pretty important for schools. This is the area of the brain that generates new brain cells. This is the area of the brain, if you're under stress, will be damaged structurally and functionally. This is the area of the brain that gets hit very early with Alzheimer's. What do you get early with Alzheimer's? Memory problems. Caregivers come to me and say, Dr. Nussbaum, if he tells me one more time to do so-and-so, I'm going to lose my mind. All I do all day is repeat. Because he's repeating, okay? Because that part of the brain's damaged. Kind of the most interesting part of you is in the frontal lobe, because this is the area of the brain that helps you do so many things. You can lose this part of your brain, your IQ will not go down, but you'll be completely disorganized, scattered, fragmented. You won't be able to sequence. You won't be able to plan into the future, which is really kind of a cool thing you can do. Your cat can't do that, okay? It's where your personality is, okay? Now, I see a lot of patients who have frontal lobe damage, okay? And by the way, I was on a panel the other day, and I'm one of the people out there that say we should not be having our kids playing youth football, so I'm not real popular. But until somebody, I was with ESPN doing a thing, and until somebody can tell me that it's actually a good idea for our little kids with a rapidly developing frontal lobe to get up this morning and smack somebody else's frontal lobe, you know, you can convince me of that, I'll be with you. I played youth football. And as I tell people across the country, right, we're from Pittsburgh. Second maybe to God, maybe. Football, okay? But I'm not talking about the NFL. I'm talking about 6-, 7-year-olds right now, okay? Now, if you want to have an appreciation, if you don't see people with head injuries, I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about when your frontal lobe shuts down. You ever been at a happy hour? Okay? You get 1 hour to be happy, right? You would have thought we made it plural. So this is where people get nervous. They start looking in their purses and they're, dear God, did he see me last night, right? No. Not you guys, but your friends, right? So you're at happy hour, and you know you have 1, 2, 3, 4 drinks, whatever it is. You know, did you ever notice your best friend, Dr. Nussbaum, you know, dressed to help Mr. Ethics? Did I ever tell you I love you? I love you. Dr. Nussbaum, please quit touching my hair, right? What? The alcohol goes to the front part of the brain and shuts it off. And then whatever comes out, it's coming out. Okay? I see a lot of this behavior in nursing homes. They're not bad people. Your frontal lobe's gone. In all fairness, you're not a bad person if you have too much to drink, but you ain't going to act the way you usually do. Okay? The fact that you're not standing up right now, disrobing, yelling vulgarities, tells me you have a healthy frontal lobe. I'm standing in the middle of Times Square. You know what's going through my head? There are a lot of people here. We're one neuronal hiccup in the frontal lobe from having a catastrophe here. But it doesn't happen, thank goodness, right? Frontal lobe's that important. Okay, that important for us. This stuff all works as a symphony. Your brain weighs 2 to 4 pounds. As Rita would tell you, it's made up of 60% fat. It's that fat that insulates the nerve tracts that makes the information go rapidly. You want to be a rapid information processing animal. You don't want to be slow. If you don't believe me, the next time you're on an elevator, try it out. Person walks in the elevator, door shut, person looks at you and says, how you doing? You don't know. Here's what I want you to do. Just stare at them. Okay? They'll start twitching and scratching, right? Doing all kind of things and barking and because they're uncomfortable. Doors open up, they run away. You say, fine, I'm fine. But it took you 8 seconds. Try that, 8 seconds. Doesn't seem like a long time, try it. You don't want to process that way, okay? You want to be rapid information processing animals. Rita would tell you that you have to eat proper fats, okay? Exercise insulates the brain with those proper fats. Every time your heart beats, and this is why this talk's so important, 25% of the blood goes to the brain. 25, man. Anybody want to talk about market share? 25%, good number. 3 pounds, 25%. No matter what you weigh, subtract 3. That bigger number, not big number, bigger number, gets 75%. See what we're talking about here, okay?